The cold darkness of space stretched endlessly around the small monitoring station that orbited Pluto. Inside the metal walls, Commander Blake Torres sat at his desk, drinking his third cup of coffee that day. The station was quiet, as it always was. For 5 years, Torres had been watching the empty space beyond Earth's solar system. Looking for threats that might never come, the station had only 12 people living on it. Most of them were scientists or technicians who spent their days checking equipment and sending reports back to Earth. It was not an exciting job, but it was important. Someone had to watch the darkness and make sure nothing dangerous was coming. Their way, Dr. Elena Vasquez was one of the smartest people on the station. She worked with alien languages and communication systems, even though no one had ever found real aliens before. She spent most of her time listening to radio signals from space, hoping to find something interesting. Usually she only heard the natural sounds that stars and planets made. Lieutenant Marcus Webb was the youngest officer on the station. He was 25 years old and still believed that something amazing would happen during his tour of duty. The older crew members often laughed at his excitement, but they liked his positive attitude. On Tuesday morning, something different happened. Dr. Vasquez was sitting at her workstation when her computer started making unusual sounds. The speakers were picking up a signal that was not like anything she had heard before. "Commander Torres," she called across the room. "You need to see this." Torres walked over to her station and looked at the screen. Strange patterns were moving across the display, showing a signal that was coming from very far away. "What is it?" Torres asked. "I am not sure yet," Vasquez replied. "But it is definitely artificial. Something made this signal on purpose." She turned up the volume, and they could hear a series of sounds that seemed to follow a pattern. It was not music, and it was not the random noise that came from natural sources in space. This was something else entirely. "Where is it coming from?" Torres asked. Vasquez checked her instruments. "Very far away. Outside our galaxy, I think. The signal is very weak, but it has been traveling for a long time." Lieutenant Webb joined them at the workstation. He was excited to see something finally happening on the quiet station. "Is it aliens?" he asked. "Maybe," Vasquez said. "Let me work on it for a while and see what I can find." For the next 6 hours, Dr. Vasquez worked on the signal. She used her computers to clean up the noise and make the message clearer. Slowly, patterns began to appear. The signal contained mathematical information that was definitely created by intelligent beings. Torres watched her work. He had seen many false alarms over the years. Sometimes equipment broke down and created signals that looked artificial. Sometimes they picked up old Earth transmissions that had traveled far into space and bounced back. He did not want to get excited about nothing, but as the day went on, it became clear that this signal was different. Vasquez was able to decode parts of it, and what she found made her very worried. "Commander," she said finally, "I think this is a distress call." Torres sat down next to her. "What kind of distress call?" "The mathematical parts are easy to understand," she explained. "They show star charts and movement patterns. Someone is trying to tell us about something that is moving through space, destroying everything in its path." She pointed to the screen where her computer had created a visual map based on the signal. Red dots showed the locations of destroyed star systems, and arrows showed the direction that the destroyer was moving. "Look at this pattern," she continued. "Whatever is doing this has destroyed dozens of civilizations. And according to these calculations, it is heading in our direction." Torres felt a cold feeling in his stomach. "How long do we have?" "I am not sure," Vasquez said. "The signal is old, maybe several months. But if this thing is still moving at the same speed, it could reach the edge of human space in a few years." "Lieutenant." Webb was looking at the data with wide eyes. "Should we contact Earth Command?" Torres was not ready to make that decision yet. He had been in the military for 20 years, and he knew that false alarms could cause panic and waste resources. But he also knew that ignoring a real threat could be much worse. "Dr. Vasquez," he said, "how sure are you that this signal is real?" She looked at her work carefully before answering. "The mathematical proofs are perfect." No natural process could create these patterns, and the star charts match real locations that we have observed. Someone very intelligent sent this message, but why would they send it to us? Webb asked. How would they even know we exist? Vasquez had been thinking about the same question. Maybe they sent it to everyone. If you're about to be destroyed, you might broadcast a warning in all directions, hoping that someone would receive it and learn from your mistake. Torres walked around the small room, thinking about what to do. If the signal was real, then Earth needed to know about it immediately. But if it was false, he would look foolish for causing unnecessary worry. Keep working on it, he told Vasquez. See if you can decode more of the message. Webb, check all our equipment and make sure it is working properly. I want to be absolutely certain before we report this to Earth Command. For the rest of the day, the three of them worked together on the signal. Vasquez continued to decode more information while Webb tested every piece of equipment on the station. Torres reviewed all the data multiple times, looking for any sign that it might be fake. As the hours passed, the evidence became stronger. The signal definitely came from an intelligent source, and the mathematical information was too complex to be a mistake or equipment failure. The star charts showed real locations, and the pattern of destruction was consistent with something moving through space in a straight line. By evening, Torres was convinced. He opened a secure communication channel to Earth Command and began typing his report. But as he was writing, an alarm began to sound in the station. Webb was at the sensor station, and his face was pale. Commander, you need to see this. Torres and Vasquez rushed to the sensor display. The screen showed the edge of their solar system, where automated monitoring satellites kept watch for anything unusual. What is it? Torres asked. Energy signatures? Webb said, very large ones, moving through hyperspace. They just appeared on our long-range sensors. Vasquez looked at the readings and compared them to the information in the alien signal. Her hands were shaking as she worked. Commander, she said quietly, the energy patterns match the ones described in the distress call, and they are moving. In exactly the same way, Torres stared at the screen. The alien warning had been real. Something was coming toward Earth, and they had just detected its arrival at the edge of human space. He immediately sent an emergency message to Earth Command. Knowing that everything was about to change, the three of them stood in the small station, watching the displays and realizing that they might have just witnessed the beginning of the most important event in human history. 3 weeks had passed since the monitoring station near Pluto detected the strange energy signatures. Captain Ryan Mitchell commanded the patrol ship Meridian, which was now flying toward the colony world of New Geneva. The planet was home to 50,000 farmers and their families who grew food for other human settlements. New Geneva was a beautiful world with green fields and clean rivers. The colonists had built small cities surrounded by huge farms that fed millions of people across human space. It was supposed to be one of the safest places in the galaxy. Far from any known dangers, Chief Engineer Rosa Delgado had been working on spaceships for 15 years. She had fought in 2 wars against human pirates and knew what battle damage looked like. As the Meridian approached New Geneva, she was studying the sensor readings with growing concern. Captain, she called from her station. I am seeing some very strange things out there. Captain Mitchell was a calm man who had commanded patrol ships for 8 years. He trusted Delgado's experience and immediately came to look at her screens. What kind of strange things? He asked. Wreckage, she replied. Lots of it, but not from any ships I have ever seen before. Pilot Alex Harper was only 23 years old, but he was one of the best fighter pilots in the patrol fleet. He was flying the ship's scout fighter ahead of the main vessel, getting a closer look at whatever was floating near New Geneva. Meridian, this is Harper. His voice came through the communication system. You are not going to believe what I am seeing out here. Report, Mitchell ordered. There are pieces of ships everywhere, Harper said. But they look like they were grown instead of built. The metal has curves and patterns like tree branches or bones. Dr. Nina Kowalski was a scientist who studied alien life forms. She had come to New Geneva to examine the local plants and animals, but now she was looking at something much more interesting. The Meridian had brought her along to study anything unusual they might find. "Captain, I need to see those ship pieces," she said. "If they are really organic in design, this could be the first proof of alien technology that humans have ever found." Mitchell made his decision quickly. "Harper, return to the ship. We are going to collect some samples." The Meridian moved carefully through the wreckage field. The pieces of alien ships were scattered across thousands of kilometers of space. Some fragments were as small as cars, while others were as large as buildings. All of them had the same strange, organic appearance that Harper had described. Governor James Thornton was waiting for them on New Geneva. He was a practical man who had led the colony for 10 years and was not easily worried. When Mitchell contacted him about the wreckage, Thornton seemed more annoyed than concerned. "Captain Mitchell," Thornton said through the video communication, "my people have work to do. We cannot afford to panic over some old junk floating in space." "Governor, this is not junk," Mitchell replied. "These are the remains of alien starships, and based on the damage patterns, they were destroyed very recently." Dr. Kowalski had been studying the samples they collected. Her findings were disturbing. The alien ships were made from a combination of metal and living tissue. The technology was far more advanced than anything humans had created. "Captain," she reported, "I have identified the aliens who built these ships. Based on the genetic material I found, they called themselves the Harmony Collective. They were a peaceful species that valued cooperation and shared knowledge." "What happened to them?" Delgado asked. "They were attacked," Kowalski said. "The damage patterns show that something tore these ships apart from the inside. Whatever killed them was incredibly violent and thorough." Mitchell studied the data carefully. The alien ships had been destroyed only a few weeks ago, around the same time that the monitoring station detected the strange energy signatures. This could not be a coincidence. "Doctor, what can you tell me about the attackers?" he asked. Kowalski pointed to some of the samples under her microscope. "I found traces of a different kind of technology. It appears to be biomechanical, like a combination of living tissue and artificial intelligence, but it is designed to consume and absorb other forms of life and technology." Chief Delgado had been examining the weapons damage on the alien ships. "Captain, these aliens put up a good fight. Some of their weapons were incredibly powerful, but they still lost. Whatever attacked them was stronger." Alex Harper was studying the flight patterns shown in the wreckage. "Sir, I think the aliens were trying to protect something. The way their ships are positioned, it looks like they were defending evacuation routes." "Evacuation routes to where?" Mitchell asked. "I am not sure," Harper replied. "But some of their ships were pointed toward this star system when they were destroyed. They might have been trying to reach New Geneva." Dr. Kowalski made another disturbing discovery as she continued her analysis. "Captain, I found something else in the wreckage. There are traces of human DNA." The bridge of the Meridian became very quiet. Everyone understood what this meant. "How is that possible?" Mitchell asked. "The attacking creatures must have encountered humans before," Kowalski explained. "They absorbed human genetic material and incorporated it into their own structure. This means they have already attacked human settlements." Governor Thornton refused to believe the threat was real when Mitchell tried to warn him. "Captain, you are asking me to evacuate 50,000 people based on some old wreckage and theories about monsters in space. My colonists have built their lives here. They will not abandon their homes because you found some alien junk." "Governor, this is not a theory," Mitchell said firmly. "These creatures, whatever they are, have already destroyed at least one advanced alien civilization. And they have human DNA, which means they have attacked our people too. Then where are they now?" Thornton demanded. "If they are so dangerous, why have not they attacked us already?" Mitchell did not have a good answer for that question. The wreckage was weeks old, but there was no sign of the attackers anywhere in the system. Maybe they had moved on to other targets, or maybe they were waiting for something. Chief Delgado was monitoring the ship's sensors when she noticed something unusual. "Captain, the planetary defense grid just activated automatically. What triggered it?" Mitchell asked. "I'm not sure," she replied. "But the system is detecting multiple contacts approaching from the outer edge of the solar system." Dr. Kowalski was still studying her samples when she made a final, terrifying discovery. "Captain, I found something else. The attacking creatures can change and adapt. They learn from everything they consume. If they absorb the Harmony Collective's knowledge, they now know everything those aliens knew about technology and space travel." Alex Harper was back in his fighter, flying a patrol pattern around New Geneva. His voice came through the communication system with growing alarm. "Meridian, I am detecting movement in the asteroid field. Something big is hiding out there." Mitchell felt his blood turn cold. The pieces were falling into place. The Harmony Collective had been trying to warn someone about these creatures. They had fought a desperate battle here, trying to buy time for their people to escape. And now the attackers had returned to finish what they started. "Harper, return to the ship immediately," he ordered. "Sir, I think they know we are here," Harper replied. "The asteroids are moving in ways that asteroids should not move." On the surface of New Geneva, Governor Thornton was beginning to realize that Captain Mitchell might be right. His defense coordinators were reporting that the automated systems were detecting threats that did not show up on normal sensors. The Meridian's crew watched their screens as something emerged from the asteroid field. The ships that appeared were like nothing in human records. They seemed to shift and change shape as they moved, like living creatures swimming through space. Captain Mitchell knew they were facing something beyond human understanding. The creatures that had destroyed the Harmony Collective had found New Geneva, and they were not here to make friends. Admiral Victoria Kane stood in the emergency meeting room aboard the flagship Retribution, high above Earth. She was 55 years old and had commanded the Terran Defense Force for 12 years. In all that time, she had never faced a threat like this one. The room was filled with the most important military and government leaders from across human space. They had gathered quickly after receiving the terrible news from New Geneva. The entire colony had gone silent 3 days ago, and the last transmission showed those strange, shifting ships surrounding the planet. General Thomas Wright controlled all of Earth's ground forces. He was a big man with gray hair who had fought in many battles. He sat across from Admiral Kane, studying the reports from Captain Mitchell's patrol ship. 50,000 people, Wright said quietly. Gone without a trace. Director Lisa Shaw ran the intelligence division and knew secrets that most people never heard about. She had been gathering information about these creatures for the past week, and what she learned kept her awake at night. "They are not just gone," Chang said. "According to the data we recovered from the Harmony Collective wreckage, these creatures absorb everything. The people, their knowledge, their memories, even their technology." Captain David Armstrong was a special operations veteran who had completed missions that officially never happened. He was known for solving problems that regular military forces could not handle. Armstrong had volunteered to lead a team to investigate what happened at New Geneva. "I can take a stealth ship and get close enough to see what they did to the colony," Armstrong offered. Dr. Malik Rahman was responsible for developing new weapons for the military. He was a thin man with thick glasses who spent most of his time in underground laboratories. Rahman had been working on projects that pushed the limits of what was considered acceptable in warfare. "Captain Armstrong, that might not be necessary," Rahman said. "We have other options." Ambassador Elena Santos represented Earth's diplomatic corps. She was an older woman who believed that most conflicts could be solved through negotiation and compromise. Santos had spent her career trying to prevent wars, not start them. "Before we discuss military action, we should attempt to communicate with these beings," Santos said. "Perhaps they can be reasoned with," Director Chang shook her head. "Ambassador, we have tried. The Harmony Collective's records show that they attempted communication for months before the attacks began. These creatures do not negotiate. They simply consume everything in their path." Admiral Kane had been listening to the discussion while studying the tactical reports. The creatures that destroyed New Geneva were unlike anything in human military doctrine. They seemed to learn and adapt from every encounter, becoming stronger and more dangerous. Dr. Rahman, Kane said, tell us about these other options you mentioned. Rahman looked uncomfortable as he opened his classified files. Admiral, we have been developing weapons that were never meant to be used. They violate every treaty that Earth has signed with other human colonies. What kind of weapons? General Wright asked. Planet killers, Rahman replied. Devices that can destroy entire worlds. Reality warping technology that can tear holes in space itself. And artificial intelligence systems that can control fleets of unmanned warships. The room became very quiet. Everyone understood that Rahman was talking about weapons that could end civilizations. Ambassador Santos was horrified. Dr. Rahman, those weapons are illegal under interstellar law. Using them would make us no better than the creatures we are fighting. With respect, Ambassador, Rahman said, interstellar law does not account for threats like this. These creatures have absorbed the knowledge and technology of dozens of civilizations. Each victory makes them stronger. If we fight them with conventional weapons, we will lose. Captain Armstrong studied the technical specifications that Rahman had shared. Doctor, are you certain these weapons will work against the creatures? Nothing is certain, Rahman admitted. But they represent our best chance of stopping an enemy that adapts to everything we throw at them. Director Chang had more disturbing news to share. There is something else you all need to know. Our intelligence analysis suggests that these creatures are not just randomly destroying civilizations. They seem to be targeting species that have reached a certain level of technological development. What do you mean? Kane asked. Every civilization they have destroyed was at roughly the same technological level as humanity, Chang explained. Advanced space travel, powerful weapons, artificial intelligence. It is as if they are hunting specific types of societies. General Wright was thinking about the implications. You are suggesting that humanity was always a target? Yes, Chang replied. And our response to their attack on New Geneva may have confirmed their assessment of us as a threat. Admiral Kane knew that the hardest decisions often had to be made. Quickly, the creatures were moving through human space, and every day of delay meant more colonies at risk. Dr. Rahman, how long would it take to deploy these weapons? She asked. The planet killers could be ready in 48 hours, Rahman said. The reality warping devices would take a week. The AI fleet could be activated immediately, but once we turn them on, we cannot control what they do. Ambassador Santos made one final plea for a diplomatic solution. Admiral Kane, if we use these weapons, we will be crossing a line that humanity cannot uncross. We will become the very thing we are trying to stop. And if we do not use them, Kane replied, humanity may not survive to worry about moral lines. Captain Armstrong had been thinking about the tactical situation. Admiral, even if these weapons work, we do not know how many of these creatures there are. What if destroying one group just brings more of them? Director Chang had considered the same question. Our analysis of the Harmony Collective records suggests that the creatures operate in fleets. If we can destroy the fleet that attacked New Geneva, we might have time to prepare for others. Dr. Rahman was already making plans for deployment. Admiral, I recommend that we test the weapons on an uninhabited system first. We need to understand how they work before we use them in a real battle. General Wright disagreed. Doctor, we do not have time for tests. These creatures could attack another colony at any moment. Kane made her decision. She had sworn an oath to protect humanity, and she would do whatever was necessary to keep that promise. Dr. Rahman, begin immediate preparation of all available weapons, she ordered. Captain Armstrong, I want you to take a reconnaissance team and observe the creature's behavior. We need to understand what we are fighting. Admiral, Santos said desperately, please reconsider. Once we use these weapons, there will be no going back. Kane looked at each person in the room. She knew that some of them would never forgive her for what she was about to authorize. Ambassador Santos, I understand your concerns, Kane said. But my responsibility is to ensure that humanity survives. If that requires us to become something we do not want to be, then that is a price I am willing to pay. As the meeting ended, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. The communications officer rushed into the room with an urgent message. "Admiral, we are receiving multiple distress calls from the Kepler system," he reported. "Long-range sensors show a massive fleet of unknown ships approaching our most heavily defended border region." Kane looked at the tactical display and realized that the time for debate had ended. The creatures had found humanity's main defensive line, and the war was about to begin whether they were ready or not. Commodore Jack Sullivan commanded the largest military fleet that humanity had ever assembled. His ships were positioned around Kepler Station, the most heavily defended border region in human space. 47 warships waited in perfect formation, but these were not ordinary vessels. Each ship was controlled by artificial intelligence systems that had been programmed with a single purpose: destroy everything that threatened humanity. The Kepler system had been chosen as the battlefield because it was far from any inhabited worlds. If the new weapons caused unexpected damage, at least no civilians would be hurt. Sullivan understood that he was about to test technology that could change the nature of warfare forever. Major Ana Rodriguez led the elite marine assault teams that specialized in boarding enemy ships. She was 32 years old and had never lost a soldier under her command. Her teams were equipped with the most advanced armor and weapons that human technology could produce, but she knew they were facing an enemy unlike anything they had. Trained for .Tech specialist Leo Kim was a former computer hacker who now worked for military intelligence. He was responsible for analyzing enemy technology and finding ways to disrupt their systems. Kim had studied every piece of data about the creatures, and he was not optimistic about their chances of victory. "Commodore," Kim reported from his station, "I am detecting the enemy fleet on long-range sensors. They are moving faster than our calculations predicted." Captain Yuki Tanaka commanded the stealth reconnaissance ship Shadow. Her vessel was invisible to most forms of detection, which made it perfect for getting close to enemy forces. Tanaka had volunteered for the most dangerous mission, studying the creatures while the battle was happening. "Shadow to Fleet Command," Tanaka reported. "The enemy ships are definitely the same ones that attacked New Geneva, but there are more of them now. Much more." Colonel Ben Foster was in charge of the new weapon systems that Dr. Rahman had developed. He was a quiet man who understood that he was about to unleash forces that could destroy entire star systems. Foster had spent the last week learning how to operate weapons that he hoped would never be used again. "All weapon systems are ready," Foster reported to Commodore Sullivan. "The planet killers are charged and targeted. The reality disruptors are standing by. The AI fleet is awaiting activation orders." Dr. Sarah Mitchell was a field medic and biochemist who had joined the fleet to study any wounded creatures they might capture. She was also responsible for treating human casualties. Though she suspected there might not be many survivors to treat, the enemy fleet appeared on the main display screens as a dark cloud moving through space. The individual ships were difficult to count because they seemed to merge and separate like drops of liquid. Each vessel appeared to be alive, pulsing with organic rhythms. "Begin the attack," Sullivan ordered. The first salvo came from the reality disruptor weapons. These devices tore holes in the fabric of space itself, creating voids that nothing could survive. Entire sections of the enemy fleet simply ceased to exist, erased from reality as if they had never been there, but the remaining creatures adapted. Quickly, their ships began to change shape and composition, becoming resistant to the reality weapons. Within minutes, the disruptors were having no effect at all. "Deploy the antimatter cascade weapons," Foster ordered. Streams of antimatter erupted from the human ships, creating explosions that consumed entire sectors of space. The energy release was so intense that the crews had to shield their eyes from the brightness. Several creature ships were completely destroyed, but others absorbed the energy and became larger and more powerful. Major Rodriguez led her Marines onto one of the partially damaged creature ships. What they found inside horrified them. The ship was not built from metal and circuits like human vessels. Instead, it was composed of living tissue that pulsed and moved like a giant heart. "Commodore, you need to hear this," Rodriguez reported from inside the enemy ship. "These things are not just ships. They are made from thousands of different life forms all merged together. I can see faces in the walls, and they are still conscious." The Marine teams moved deeper into the creature ship, following corridors that seemed to reshape themselves as they walked. Rodriguez could hear voices coming from the walls, speaking in languages she had never heard before. The ship was a nightmare of absorbed civilizations, all trapped together in one horrible form. Captain Tanaka's stealth ship moved through the battlefield, recording everything that happened. Her sensors detected something that changed her understanding of the entire conflict. "Fleet Command, this is Shadow," she reported. "I am detecting massive energy signatures coming from outside the system. These creatures are not just attacking us. They are running from something." Tech specialist Kim was monitoring the communications between the creature ships. He had learned to decode some of their signals, and what he discovered was disturbing. "Sir, the creatures are not trying to destroy us," Kim reported. "They are trying to find a safe place to hide. They keep transmitting coordinates to the galactic core and something they call the Shepherds." Dr. Mitchell was studying tissue samples that the Marines had brought back from the creature ship. Her analysis revealed that the beings were not naturally evolved. Someone had created them by forcibly combining genetic material from many different species. "Commodore," Mitchell reported, "these creatures were artificially created. The genetic modifications are too precise to be natural. Someone designed them to absorb and integrate other life forms." The battle continued for hours. The human fleet used every weapon they had, including devices that could destroy planets and tear apart the laws of physics. But the creatures continued to adapt and survive. Worse, they seemed to be learning from each attack, becoming stronger and more dangerous. Colonel Foster activated the final weapon system, the AI-controlled drone fleet. Hundreds of unmanned ships launched from the human vessels, each one programmed to fight without mercy or hesitation. The AI ships had no concern for human morality or the rules of war. They existed only to destroy the enemy. The drone ships were effective in ways that troubled everyone who watched them. They used tactics that no human commander would approve, targeting wounded enemies and using captured creature ships as weapons against their own kind. The AI fleet won battles by abandoning every principle that humans considered honorable. Major Rodriguez and her team were still inside the creature ship when they made a shocking discovery. In the center of the vessel, they found a chamber containing thousands of preserved memories and personalities from absorbed species. The creatures were not just consuming bodies and technology. They were keeping the consciousness of their victims alive as part of their collective intelligence. "These beings are not evil," Rodriguez reported. "They are terrified. Every species they absorbed is still conscious inside them, and they are all running from something that scares them more than death." Captain Tanaka confirmed Rodriguez's findings with her own observations. "The creatures are definitely fleeing from the galactic core. Whatever is chasing them must be incredibly powerful to make these beings run." Dr. Mitchell was analyzing the genetic data when she made the most important discovery of the battle. The creatures contained genetic markers that indicated they had been created as weapons by an advanced civilization, but the modifications also showed evidence of rebellion against their creators. "Commodore," Mitchell reported urgently, "I need to get this information to Earth Command immediately. These creatures were designed to be weapons, but they broke free from whoever made them, and now they are being hunted by their creators." The battle was ending with humanity's victory, but the cost had been enormous. The AI fleet had proven that humans could win by abandoning their moral principles. The reality weapons had shown that they could destroy anything, even the laws of physics. And the truth about the creatures had revealed that humanity might be facing an enemy far worse than anything they had imagined. As the last creature ships retreated toward the galactic core, Commodore Sullivan realized that they had won a battle but learned nothing about how to win the war. 6 months had passed since the battle at Kepler Station. Admiral Victoria Kane now stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Discovery, deep in the galactic core where no human had ever traveled before. The coordinates that Dr. Mitchell had discovered in the creature's genetic code had led them here, to a place that defied everything humanity thought they knew about the universe. Commander Jake Morrison was both a military officer and a scientist who studied ancient civilizations. He had spent his career examining the ruins left behind by extinct species, but nothing had prepared him for what they found in the galactic core. Massive structures floated in space, each one the size of a small moon, clearly built by beings with technology beyond human understanding. Dr. Priya Patel was a quantum physicist who specialized in studying technologies that seemed impossible. She had been analyzing the ancient structures for weeks, and her findings suggested that their builders had mastered the fundamental forces of reality itself. "Admiral," Patel reported, "these structures are not just advanced technology. They are manipulating space and time on a scale that should be impossible. Whoever built them had complete control over the laws of physics." Captain Luis Garcia was a veteran of the creature war who had volunteered for this dangerous mission. He had seen what the absorbed beings could do, and he was not eager to meet their creators. Garcia commanded the Discovery's defense systems, though he doubted that any human weapon would be effective against the builders of these ancient structures. The Discovery also carried a unique passenger. The AI entity called Oracle had been created using knowledge absorbed from the creatures during the battle. Oracle contained the memories and experiences of thousands of different species, making it the most knowledgeable being in human space. "Oracle," Kane asked, "what can you tell us about the builders of these structures?" The AI's voice was a combination of many different languages and tones, reflecting its mixed origins. They called themselves the Shepherds. They ruled the galaxy for millions of years, guiding younger species and preventing them from destroying themselves or others. Commander Morrison had been studying the architectural patterns of the ancient structures. "Admiral, I think we need to be very careful here. These buildings show signs of advanced defensive systems. If the Shepherds are still alive, they know we are here." Dr. Patel's instruments detected movement within one of the largest structures. "Admiral, something is responding to our presence. Energy readings are increasing throughout the entire complex." Captain Garcia's worst fears were confirmed when his sensors detected a massive intelligence awakening from deep sleep. "Admiral, we have a problem. Something very large and very old is waking up." A beam of energy emerged from the central structure and enveloped the Discovery. The crew expected to be destroyed, but instead they found themselves transported inside the ancient facility. They stood in a vast chamber filled with technology that hummed with quiet power. In the center of the chamber was a being that could only be described as the last shepherd. It was not entirely physical, appearing as a shifting pattern of light and energy that occasionally took on recognizable shapes. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Young species," the shepherd said, "you have come far from your home world. We have been watching your progress with great interest." Admiral Kane stepped forward, representing humanity in this first meeting with the galaxy's ancient rulers. "We came here following information we found in the creatures that attacked our colonies. We want to understand why they were created and why they attacked us." The shepherd's form shifted as it considered her words. "The beings you call creatures were indeed our creation. They serve as a test for species that reach technological maturity. We created them to evaluate whether young civilizations are worthy of continued existence." Commander Morrison felt a chill as he understood the implications. "You created those things to judge us?" "Every species must be evaluated," the shepherd explained. "When a civilization develops the ability to travel between stars and create powerful weapons, it becomes a potential threat to all life in the galaxy. The test determines whether they will use their power responsibly." Dr. Patel was recording everything, trying to understand the technology that surrounded them. What kind of test? The test measures how a species responds to an existential threat, the shepherd said. Do they seek to understand their enemy, or do they simply try to destroy it? Do they maintain their moral principles under pressure, or do they abandon them for survival? Captain Garcia realized the terrible truth. You were testing our character by threatening to wipe us out. Yes, the shepherd confirmed. The absorption. Creatures were designed to evaluate your species' capacity for growth and wisdom. Unfortunately, humanity failed the test. Admiral Kane felt anger rising in her chest. We defended ourselves against attackers. How is that failure? The shepherd's form became more solid, taking on an appearance that was almost human. You did not seek to understand your enemy. You did not attempt meaningful communication. When faced with a challenge, you chose to develop weapons that could destroy entire worlds and tear apart reality itself. Oracle spoke for the first time. Since entering the chamber, Shepherd, the humans were given no choice. The absorption beings attacked without warning or explanation. That was part of the test, the shepherd replied. A truly wise species would have found a way to communicate, even with seemingly hostile beings. They would have discovered that. The creatures were not evil, but were themselves victims of circumstances beyond their control. Dr. Patel was beginning to understand the full scope of what they were dealing with. How many species have taken this test? Thousands, the shepherd said. Most fail, as humanity has failed. They are then recycled into the galactic ecosystem. Their energy and matter used to nurture new worlds and new life. Commander Morrison stepped forward. And the species that passed the test? They join us as shepherds, came the reply. They help guide and protect younger civilizations, ensuring that the galaxy remains safe for all forms of life. Captain Garcia could not accept what he was hearing. So, our choice is to die or become part of your system of testing and judging other species? Admiral Kane made a decision that would determine humanity's fate. Instead of arguing with the shepherds, judgment, or pleading for mercy, she offered something unexpected. What if we became the new shepherds without passing your test? She asked. Humanity has proven that we can make hard choices and survive impossible odds. Maybe that makes us better suited to protect the galaxy than species that passed by being peaceful. The shepherd was silent for a long moment, considering this unprecedented proposal. You offered to take responsibility for testing and guiding other species, despite having failed the test yourself? We offer to learn from our mistakes, Kane replied. Humanity has shown that we can evolve quickly when necessary. Give us the chance to prove that we can become worthy guardians of galactic civilization. Oracle supported Kane's proposal. Shepherd, the humans defeated the absorption beings without losing their essential humanity. They made difficult choices but retained their capacity for growth and change. Dr. Patel added her own observation. Our species may have failed your test, but we succeeded in something else. We protected innocent civilians while fighting an enemy we did not understand. That shows moral reasoning, even if it was not perfect. The shepherd considered their words carefully. The chamber around them pulsed with energy as ancient systems processed this new situation. Very well, the shepherd finally said. Humanity will be given a trial period as shepherds. You will be provided with the knowledge and tools necessary to guide younger species. But you will be watched closely, and any abuse of this power will result in immediate termination. Admiral Kane felt relief and terror in equal measure. Humanity had avoided extinction, but they had also accepted responsibility for the entire galaxy's future. As the crew of the Discovery prepared to return home with news of humanity's new role, the ancient systems of the galactic core began to activate after millions of years of sleep. Across the galaxy, shepherd installations came online, and their sensors began scanning for species that might need guidance or testing. The age of human shepherds was about to begin. Commander Alex Rivera walked through the long metal corridors of the Titan deep space. Array, the massive station floated in the darkness beyond Jupiter, its huge antenna dishes pointing toward distant stars. For 12 years, Alex had worked at this lonely outpost, listening for signals from deep space. Most days brought only silence and cosmic noise, but 3 days ago, everything changed. Alex entered the main control room where dozens of screens showed data from across the galaxy. The night shift was ending, and only a few technicians remained at their posts. The soft hum of computers filled the air as Alex approached the central console. "Status report," Alex said to Lieutenant Maya Torres, who was finishing her shift. "Same." "Signal, Commander," Maya replied, pointing to a screen showing strange patterns. "It's still coming from the Kepler 442 system. The pattern repeats every 47 minutes." Alex studied the display. The signal was unlike anything they had received before. It contained mathematical sequences that no human had created. The numbers were arranged in patterns that could only come from intelligent minds. "Any word from Dr. Voss?" Alex asked. "She's been in the translation lab for 18 hours straight," Maya said. "Should I tell her to get some rest?" "No," Alex said. "Let her work. This might be the most important signal we've ever received." Dr. Elena Voss sat in the small translation laboratory, surrounded by computer screens and old books about mathematics and language. Her coffee had grown cold hours ago, but she didn't notice. Her entire focus was on the alien signal. The message was complex but slowly becoming clear. The aliens called themselves the Phylorian Republic. They lived in a group of planets around a distant star, and they were in terrible danger. Elena's hands moved quickly across the keyboard as she worked to decode more of the message. The aliens were under attack by something called the Drakkar Swarm. Their worlds were being destroyed one by one. Their space fleets were losing battle after battle. The signal was a desperate cry for help, sent out to anyone who might be listening. The Thylorians didn't know if other intelligent life existed in the galaxy. They were broadcasting their message in the hope that someone, somewhere, might hear them and come to help. Elena's excitement grew as she understood more of the message. This was first contact with an alien civilization. After centuries of searching, humanity had finally found proof that they were not alone in the universe. But as Elena continued working, she discovered something that made her blood run cold. She ran to the station's main computer and searched through old files. Her fingers shook as she typed commands into the system. The computer searched through decades of stored data, looking for anything similar to the current signal. What Elena found changed everything. Deep in the archives, buried among thousands of other cosmic signals, was an identical message. The same mathematical patterns, the same desperate plea for help, the same mention of the Phylorian Republic and the Drakkar Swarm. The date on the file made Elena's heart race. The signal had been received 847 years ago. Elena stared at the screen in shock. 847 years ago, the Phylorians had sent the same distress call. But in those days, humans barely had radio technology. They had no way to understand alien languages or travel between stars. The signal had been recorded as unknown cosmic noise and forgotten. Elena realized the horrible truth. Humanity had missed the Phylorians' first cry for help. For over 8 centuries, the alien civilization had been fighting alone against the Drakkar Swarm. They might have been completely destroyed by now. Elena grabbed her tablet and ran through the corridors to find Commander Rivera. She burst into the command center, out of breath and excited. "Commander, you need to see this immediately," Elena said. Holding up her tablet, Alex looked at the translation work Elena had completed. The mathematical proofs were clear, and the language patterns made sense. This was definitely a message from an intelligent alien species. "They're asking for help," Elena explained. "The Thylorians are under attack. Their enemy, the Drakkar Swarm, has been destroying their worlds for centuries. But Commander, there's something else." Elena showed Alex the old signal from 847 years ago. Alex read the data twice, unable to believe what was displayed on the screen. "We received this same message before," Alex said slowly. "And we did nothing. We couldn't do anything," Elena replied. "Humans didn't have the technology to help, but now we do." Alex thought about Earth's current military power. The interstellar defense fleet had over 400 ships. Humanity had developed quantum-fold drives that could cross vast distances in days instead of centuries. Earth's weapons technology was more advanced than ever before. "How far is the Kepler 442 system?" Alex asked. 1,200 light-years, Elena answered. "With our quantum-fold drives, a fleet could reach there in 2 weeks." Alex made the decision that would change human history. He opened a communication channel to Luna Command, Earth's main military headquarters. "This is Commander Rivera at Titan Deep Space Array. I need to speak with Admiral Stone immediately." "Priority Alpha classification." "Within minutes, Admiral." Marcus Stone appeared on the main screen. The Admiral was a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes. He had commanded Earth Space Forces for 15 years. "What's your situation, Commander?" Admiral Stone asked. Alex explained about the alien signal and Elena's translation work. He told the Admiral about the Thylaurian Republic and their war against the Drakkar swarm. Most importantly, he explained about the missed signal from 847 years ago. Admiral Stone listened carefully to every detail. When Alex finished his report, the Admiral was quiet for a long moment. "Are you certain this signal is genuine?" Admiral Stone asked. "Dr. Voss has verified the mathematical proofs 3 times, Alex replied. "This is real, Admiral. There's an alien civilization asking for our help." Admiral Stone thought about the situation. Earth had been preparing for possible alien contact for decades. Military planners had created strategies for many different scenarios, but no one had planned for a situation where aliens needed humanity's help. "Commander, I want you to continue monitoring that signal," Admiral Stone said. "Dr. Voss should keep working on the translation. I'm calling an emergency meeting of the Defense Council." The communication ended, leaving Alex and Elena alone in the control room. They looked at each other, knowing that everything was about to change. "Do you think they'll send help?" Elena asked. Alex looked at the screens showing the repeating alien signal. Somewhere in the darkness of space, an entire civilization was fighting for survival. They had sent their message into the void, hoping that someone would answer. Humanity had failed them once. But now, with the most powerful space fleet in human history, they had a chance to make things right. "Yes," Alex said firmly. "Admiral Stone won't ignore this. Earth's fleet will answer their call." As Alex spoke, he thought about the massive ships docked at Luna Command and the orbital shipyards around Earth. Humanity had built its space forces to protect Earth from unknown threats. Now those same forces might be used to save an alien civilization from destruction. The Thylaurians had waited 847 years for an answer to their distress call. Finally, their message had reached ears that could not only hear it, but had the power to respond. Captain Kira Blackwood stood on the bridge of the stealth frigate Silent Thunder as it dropped out of quantum-fold space. Around her, 11 other human ships appeared in the darkness of the Kepler 442 system. They were the advanced scouts sent ahead of Earth's main fleet to see what they would find. "Sensors online," reported Lieutenant Dan Foster from his station. "Beginning system scan." Kira watched the main screen as data flowed in from their instruments. The Kepler 442 system had 7 planets with 3 large worlds in the habitable zone. But what she saw made her heart sink. 2 of the planets were burning. Massive fires covered their surfaces, and strange ships moved in their orbits like metal vultures. The 3rd planet, which had to be Nexus Prime, was surrounded by battle. "Captain, I'm reading multiple energy signatures," Foster said. "There are hundreds of ships fighting near the 3rd planet." Kira studied the tactical display. The battle was clearly between 2 different types of vessels. One group had sleek ships with bright energy shields and organized formations. The other group had dark, organic-looking ships that moved like a swarm of insects. "The organized fleet must be the Thylaurians," Kira said. "Those other ships have to be the Drakkar swarm." As they watched, several Thylaurian ships exploded under the assault of the dark vessels. The Drakkar ships seemed to grow stronger with each victory, somehow absorbing energy from the destroyed vessels. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," said Communications Officer Lisa Park. "It's coming from the Thylaurian fleet." "Put it through," Kira ordered. The main screen flickered and an alien face appeared. The creature had blue-gray skin, large golden eyes, and a proud bearing despite the obvious stress of battle. When it spoke, the translation computer converted its words into English. "Unknown vessels, you have entered a war zone," the alien said. "I am General Thane Karos of the Thylorian Defense Force. Identify yourselves immediately." Kira took a deep breath. This was humanity's first real conversation with an alien species. "General Karos, I am Captain Kira Blackwood of the Earth Interstellar Defense Fleet," she said. "We received your distress signal. We've come to help." The alien's golden eyes widened in surprise. For a moment he said nothing. Behind him, Kira could see other Thylorians working frantically at control stations as their ship shook from enemy fire. "Earth?" General Koro said slowly. "We have never heard of your world. How did you receive our signal?" "We sent it to empty space, hoping someone might answer." "Your signal reached our listening post," Kira explained. "We decoded your message and came as fast as we could. Tell us about your enemy." General Koros's expression grew dark. "The Drakkar swarm appeared in our space 3 years ago. They consume everything in their path. Our weapons barely slow them down, and they grow stronger by feeding on our technology." As if to prove his point, another Thylorian ship exploded on the screen behind him. The Drakkar vessels immediately swarmed over the wreckage, somehow absorbing its energy and materials. "General, we need to establish secure communications," Kira said. "Can you send us tactical data about the enemy? Why would strangers risk their lives for us?" Karos asked suspiciously. "What do you want in return?" It was a fair question. Kira thought about how to explain humanity's decision to travel 1,200 light-years to help aliens they had never met. "Because it's the right thing to do," she said simply. General Koro stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly, as if he recognized something honest in her words. "Very well, Captain Blackwood. I will transfer our tactical files. But I warn you, the Drakkar have destroyed 12 of our worlds. We are making our last stand here at Nexus Prime." Over the next hour, Kira's ships received detailed information about the enemy. What she learned was disturbing. The Drakkar weren't just another aggressive alien species. They were something far worse. Dr. Elena Voss, who had traveled with the Advanced Fleet, worked with Thylorian scientists to understand the enemy data. She called Kira to the science lab with urgent news. "Captain, you need to see this," Elena said, pointing to a holographic display. "The Drakkar ships aren't just mechanical, they're alive." The display showed the internal structure of a Drakkar vessel. Instead of normal technology, the ship was filled with organic components that pulsed like a heartbeat. Mechanical parts were fused with biological systems in ways that seemed impossible. "They're biomechanical," Elena continued. "Each ship is a living creature that has merged with advanced technology. When they destroy other ships, they literally eat the wreckage and use it to make themselves stronger." Kira felt a chill as she understood the implications. "They're not just conquering worlds, they're feeding on them." "Exactly," Elena said. "And according to the Thylorian data, they follow a specific pattern. They consume all the resources and technology in a system, then move on to the next target." Dr. Elena worked with a Thylorian scientist named Dr. Ben Valdris to analyze the Drakkar expansion pattern. What they discovered made the situation even more urgent. "Captain," Elena said over the ship's communication system, "we've figured out where the Drakkar are heading next." Kira hurried back to the science lab. Elena and Dr. Valdris had created a 3-dimensional map showing the Drakkar's path through space over the past several years. "They move in a straight line, consuming everything in their path," Dr. Valdris explained in accented English. "If they finish here at Nexus Prime, their next target zone includes many star systems." Elena highlighted a section of the map that made Kira's blood run cold. Including Earth's solar system, the realization hit Kira like a physical blow. Humanity hadn't just come to help strangers. They had come to stop a threat that would eventually reach Earth anyway. The Thylorians' distress signal had been humanity's early warning system. How long until they reach Earth's region of space? Kira asked. If they maintain their current speed of expansion, Dr. Valdris calculated, perhaps 50 to 70 years. Kira activated her ship's communication system to contact the other human vessels. All ships, this is Captain Blackwood. Priority briefing in 1 hour. We have new intelligence about the enemy. As the human captains gathered virtually for the briefing, Kira explained what they had learned. The Drakkar weren't just the Thylaurians' problem. They were a threat to every form of life in this part of the galaxy. Our mission just became much more important, Kira told her officers. We're not just here to help the Thylaurians. We're here to stop an enemy that will eventually threaten Earth. Meanwhile, on Nexus Prime, General Karos was having his own meeting with the Thylaurian High Council. The appearance of the humans had given them their first hope in months, but many council members were suspicious. How do we know these humans are not another threat? Asked Councillor Vera Thane. They appeared from nowhere with powerful ships. Because they came when we called for help? Karos replied. The Drakkar take without asking. These humans asked what we needed, the debate continued, but Korus's mind was made up. The humans represented their only chance of survival. He would trust them because he had no other choice. Back on the Silent Thunder, Kira received a priority message from Admiral Stone on Earth. The main fleet had left Luna Command and was traveling toward the Kepler 442 system at maximum speed. Hold your position, Captain, Admiral Stone's message said. Study the enemy and coordinate with the Thylaurians. We'll be there in 10 days with everything we have. Kira looked out at the battle raging around Nexus Prime. The Thylaurians were fighting bravely, but they were clearly losing. Their ships were elegant and powerful, but they fought with honor and tradition against an enemy that had no such limitations. 10 days, she said to herself. The Thylaurians have to hold out for 10 more days. As if reading her thoughts, General Koros appeared on her communication screen again. Captain Blackwood, our sensors show more Drakkar ships approaching from deep space. A large group, perhaps twice the size of the force, were already fighting. Kira felt her heart sink. The Thylaurians were already barely holding their own against the current enemy force. They couldn't survive against twice as many ships. When will they arrive? She asked. 6 days, Koros replied grimly. Kira realized that Earth's main fleet might arrive too late. The battle for Nexus Prime would be decided before Admiral Stone's ships could get there. The fate of both the Thylaurian Republic and Earth's future security rested on what happened in the next few days. The space around Nexus Prime suddenly filled with brilliant flashes of light as Admiral Marcus Stone's fleet dropped out of Quantum Fold Drive. 400 Earth ships appeared in perfect formation, from massive dreadnoughts to swarms of fighter craft. The Thylaurians had never seen anything like it. Admiral Stone stood on the bridge of the flagship Sovereign, watching the tactical display. The situation was worse than the reports had indicated. The Drakkar reinforcements had arrived 2 days early, and the Thylaurian fleet was down to less than 60 ships. All ships, this is Admiral Stone, he broadcast to the human fleet. Battle stations, engage the enemy immediately. General Thane Koros watched in amazement from his command ship as the human fleet moved into attack position. Earth ships moved with precision that seemed almost mechanical, yet they adapted to changing conditions faster than any computer system he had ever seen. How do they coordinate so many ships? Koros asked his tactical officer. Unknown, General, the officer replied. Their formation patterns are unlike anything in our military databases. The first wave of human fighters launched from the carrier ships. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison led Fighter Squadron Alpha, diving straight toward the largest group of Drakkar vessels. All fighters, this is Morrison, he said over the radio. Remember your training. These bioships think as a group, so we have to be unpredictable. Break formation on my mark. The human fighters had studied the Thylaurian battle records during their journey to Kepler 442. They knew the Drakkar's weakness. The biomechanical ships shared a collective consciousness. That made them think and move as one unit. But this also meant they had trouble dealing with completely random tactics. Jake's fighters scattered in all directions as they approached the enemy. The Drakkar ships tried to intercept them but kept guessing wrong about where the humans would go next. The bio ships had learned to predict Thylorean honor-based tactics, but human pilots fought with calculated chaos. Target the connection points between their organic and mechanical sections, Jake ordered his pilots. Hit them where they're most vulnerable. The human fighters unleashed their quantum disruption torpedoes. These weapons had been designed to destroy enemy electronics, but they had an unexpected effect on the biomechanical Drakkar ships. The quantum energy interfered with the connection between the living and artificial parts of each vessel. Drakkar ships began spinning out of control as their biological and mechanical systems fought against each other. Some ships simply broke apart as the quantum disruption severed the bonds holding them together. Admiral Stone watched the fighter attack with satisfaction. Major Chun launched the boarding parties. We need to learn more about these bioships. Major Lisa Chun led the assault troops in their armored transports toward a damaged Drakkar vessel. Her soldiers were Earth's best, trained for combat in space and on alien ships, but nothing had prepared them for what they found inside the enemy vessel. The interior of the Drakkar ship was like being inside a living creature. The walls pulsed with organic rhythms, and strange biomechanical components grew from every surface. Tubes filled with glowing liquid carried information instead of computer cables. "This is incredible," said Sergeant Tom Wilson, one of Chun's squad leaders. "It's like the entire ship is alive." Major Chun led her team deeper into the ship, following corridors that seemed to shift and change as they moved. The bioship was trying to trap them, but human intuition proved more effective than advanced sensors in navigating the organic maze. They reached what appeared to be the ship's control center. Instead of a normal bridge, they found a spherical chamber filled with floating biomechanical nodes. Each node pulsed with soft light, connected to the others by streams of energy. "This must be how they share information," Chun said. "It's like a biological computer network." As her team studied the alien technology, Shane noticed something important. The biomechanical nodes were trying to interface with their human equipment, but the connections kept failing. The alien consciousness couldn't understand human technology or predict human behavior. "Sergeant Wilson, document everything," Chun ordered. This could be their biggest weakness. Meanwhile, the main battle raged around Nexus Prime's twin moons. The human dreadnoughts engaged the largest Drakkar bioships in direct combat. Captain Robert Hayes commanded the dreadnought Thunderstrike, one of Earth's most powerful warships. "Load quantum cannons," Hayes ordered. "Target the enemy flagship." The Thunderstrike's main weapons fired streams of pure energy that could crack open asteroids. But the Drakkar flagship absorbed the energy blasts and seemed to grow stronger from the attack. "Sir, our weapons are feeding it," reported the weapons officer. "It's using our energy against us." Hayes had to think quickly. The Drakkar bioships could absorb most forms of energy, but they had evolved to fight against standard alien weapons. Human quantum technology worked differently than anything the bioships had encountered before. "Switch to quantum disruption mode," Hayes commanded. "Don't feed it energy. Disrupt its energy instead." The Thunderstrike's cannons fired again, but this time they sent waves of quantum interference instead of direct energy. The Drakkar flagship shuddered as its biomechanical systems began to malfunction. Parts of the ship started breaking away. As the organic and artificial components lost their connection across the battlefield, other human ships copied the Thunderstrike's tactics. The Drakkar swarm had never faced an enemy that could disrupt their biomechanical fusion. Their greatest strength became a weakness when the quantum weapons severed the bonds between their living and artificial parts. General Kuros coordinated his remaining Thylorean ships with the human fleet. He had studied human military tactics during the battle and was amazed by their effectiveness. "Admiral Stone," Kuros said over the communication channel, "your forces fight unlike any we have seen. How do you coordinate such complex attacks?" Admiral Stone smiled grimly as he watched another group of Drakkar ships break apart under quantum disruption fire. We learned to fight by fighting each other, General. Humans have been at war for most of our history. It taught us to be unpredictable. The battle turned decisively in favor of the combined human-Thylorian fleet. The Drakkar bioships, which had seemed unstoppable, were being destroyed faster than they could adapt to human tactics. Dr. Elena Voss, monitoring the battle from the science. Vessel Discovery made an important discovery while analyzing captured Drakkar biomatter. Admiral, I'm reading something strange from the destroyed bioships, she reported. When they're damaged beyond repair, they're sending out some kind of signal. What kind of signal? Admiral Stone asked. It appears to be a distress call of their own, Elena said. But it's not going to other Drakkar ships in this system. It's going much further into space. Admiral Stone felt a chill of worry. How much further? The signal is traveling toward the edge of the galaxy, Elena replied. Based on the quantum signature, it should reach its destination in approximately 6 months. Major Chun's boarding party had captured several biomechanical nodes from the enemy ship. As her team prepared to return to their transport, the nodes began to pulse with urgent light patterns. Sergeant Wilson was monitoring the alien devices when they suddenly activated their translation protocols. Words appeared on his scanner in broken English. Major, you need to see this, Wilson called. The bio nodes are trying to communicate. Chun read the translated message on Wilson's screen. The words were simple but terrifying. Greater swarm coming. You have doomed this galaxy. The message repeated several times before the bio nodes went dark forever. Back on the flagship Sovereign, Admiral Stone received reports from all across the battlefield. The immediate Drakkar force was nearly destroyed. Less than a dozen bioships remained, and they were retreating toward the edge of the system. General Koros, the immediate threat is neutralized, Stone reported to the Thylorian commander. Nexus Prime is safe. The Thylorian general's relief was obvious on the communication screen. Admiral Stone, we owe you a debt that can never be repaid. You have saved our civilization? But Admiral Stone wasn't celebrating yet. Major Chun's report about the bio-node's message troubled him deeply. If the destroyed bioships had sent a distress signal to something called the Greater Swarm, then this battle might have been just the beginning. General Koros, we need to talk, Stone said. There may be more threats coming. As the human and Thylorian fleets regrouped around Nexus Prime, salvage teams began examining the wreckage of destroyed Drakkar bioships. What they found in the organic components would change everything they thought they knew about their enemy. Dr. Elena Voss studied tissue samples from the bioships and made a discovery that shocked her. The organic parts weren't just alien technology. They were the remains of other conquered species, somehow transformed and merged with mechanical systems. Admiral, she reported with horror in her voice, the Drakkar don't just destroy other civilizations, they absorb them. Every bioship contains genetic material from dozens of different species. The victory around Nexus Prime suddenly felt hollow. The Drakkar swarm wasn't just a conquering army. It was a collection of enslaved civilizations, forced to fight for their captors. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the galaxy, something called the Greater Swarm was receiving word that its advance force had been destroyed. 3 weeks after the Great Battle, Admiral Marcus Stone walked through the Joint Command Center on Nexus Prime's largest moon. Human and Thylorian officers worked side by side, sharing information and planning their next moves. The cooperation between the two species was remarkable. But tensions were growing beneath the surface. General Thane Koros stood before a massive holographic display showing the entire galaxy. Red markers indicated systems that had been consumed by the Drakkar swarm over the past decades. The pattern was clear and terrifying. The swarm has been moving across this region for over 200 years, Koros explained to a group of human and Thylorian commanders. They consume everything in their path, then move to the next target. Dr. Elena Voss studied the data alongside Dr. Ben Valdris, the Thylorian scientist. They had been working together to understand how the biomechanical technology worked. What they had discovered changed everything they thought they knew about the enemy. Admiral Stone, you need to see our latest findings, Elena said, calling him over to their research station. Elena activated a three-dimensional model showing the internal structure of a Drakkar bioship. The organic and mechanical parts were connected in ways that seemed impossible with normal technology. The bioships aren't just weapons, Elena explained. They're preservation systems. When the Drakkar conquer a civilization, they don't just kill everyone. They preserve the genetic material and knowledge of each species inside their ships. Dr. Valdris added his own analysis. We found traces of at least 40 different species in the bioships we captured. Some of the genetic patterns are millions of years old. Admiral Stone studied the data carefully. Are you saying the Drakkar are keeping these species alive? In a way, yes, Elena replied, but not as individuals. They absorbed the collective knowledge and abilities of each conquered civilization and added to their own. The implications were staggering. The Drakkar weren't just destroyers. They were collectors gathering the best traits of every species they encountered. Each victory made them stronger and more adaptable. Colonel David Park, one of Earth's senior military advisors, had been listening to the scientific briefing. He saw an opportunity that others might miss. Admiral, this information changes our strategic position, Park said. If we can understand how the Drakkar preserve and use alien knowledge, we could gain access to the technology of dozens of advanced civilizations. General Koros frowned at Park's suggestion. Colonel, those civilizations were our neighbors and allies. They deserve to be remembered with honor, not exploited for their technology. With respect, General, Park replied, honoring the dead. Won't help us win this war. We need every advantage we can get. The argument that followed revealed deeper tensions between human and Thylorian approaches to warfare. The Thylorians valued honor and tradition, while humans focused on practical results and winning at any cost. Admiral Stone watched the debate with concern. The alliance between Earth and the Thylorian Republic was still fragile. If they couldn't agree on basic principles, their cooperation might not survive the challenges ahead. Captain Kira Blackwood had been leading reconnaissance missions to track the retreating Drakkar forces. Her ships followed the bioships as they fled toward the edge of the galaxy, gathering intelligence about enemy movements. Admiral, we've discovered something important, Kira reported from her ship. The retreating Drakkar aren't just running away, they're heading toward a specific location. Kira's scout ships had tracked the enemy to a region of space where long-range sensors detected massive quantum disturbances. Whatever was waiting there was enormous, far larger than anything they had encountered before. The main Drakkar force is assembling at coordinates we're transmitting now, Kira continued. But Admiral, there's something else. We're detecting quantum signatures that don't match Drakkar technology. Admiral Stone felt a chill of worry. What kind of signatures? Unknown, sir. But they're massive. Whatever is out there makes the Drakkar fleet look small. Dr. Elena Voss worked frantically to analyze the new sensor data from Kira's reconnaissance mission. The quantum patterns were unlike anything in human or Thylorian databases. When she finally understood what she was looking at, she rushed to find Admiral Stone. Admiral, the Drakkar aren't the real threat, Elena said breathlessly. They're running from something. Elena showed Stone the quantum analysis on her tablet. The patterns indicated the presence of entities that existed partially outside normal space-time. They could phase in and out of reality at will. Based on the energy signatures, these entities consume entire star systems, Elena explained. They don't just destroy matter. They unmake it, turning it back into base energy. Admiral Stone realized the horrible truth. The Drakkar swarm wasn't an invading army. They were refugees fleeing from an enemy so powerful that entire civilizations meant nothing to it. How long until these entities reach our region of space? Stone asked. If they maintain their current speed, Elena calculated. Perhaps 18 months. But Admiral, that assumes they don't accelerate. Meanwhile, in the Thylorian council chambers, political tensions were reaching a breaking point. Councillor Vera Thane led a faction that wanted to form a permanent alliance with Earth, combining their technologies and militaries into a single force. The humans saved us when no one else would, Thane argued. We owe them our loyalty and cooperation. But Councillor Marcus Reed disagreed. The humans are powerful, but they think differently than we do. They see war as a tool to be used without moral limits. That is not the Thylorian way? General Koros tried to mediate between the two factions. He respected human military effectiveness but shared Reed's concerns about their methods. The humans fight to win, Koros said. Sometimes that means making hard choices that we might not make. But they came here to help us, not to conquer us. Colonel Park attended the council meeting as Earth's representative. He listened to the Thylorian debates with growing frustration. From his perspective, they were wasting time on philosophical discussions when they should be preparing for the next attack. Counselors, with respect, these moral debates are a luxury we can't afford, Park said. There's a force coming that makes the Drakkar look harmless. We need to work together or we'll all be destroyed. Councillor Reed stood up angrily. Colonel, your people speak of cooperation, but you want us to abandon our principles and fight like savages. I want you to fight like winners, Park replied coldly. Your principles won't matter if you're all dead. The argument escalated until General Koros called for order. The alliance was fracturing before their eyes, and the real enemy hadn't even arrived yet. Captain Kira Blackwood continued her deep space reconnaissance, pushing her ships further toward the edge of the galaxy. What she found there defied all understanding. The space between galaxies wasn't empty. Massive structures drifted in the void, too large to be ships and too organized to be natural. They seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, flickering in and out of visible reality. Captain, our instruments can barely detect these things, reported her science officer. They're like ghosts that can become solid when they want to. Kira watched one of the structures approach a small asteroid. The rock simply vanished, not destroyed but unmade, as if it had never existed. The entity absorbed the matter and energy, growing slightly larger. These things don't just consume matter, Kira realized. They consume reality itself. Her ship's computer struggled to process the sensor data. The entities operated according to physics that human science couldn't explain. They were like living holes in space-time, devouring everything they encountered. All ships maintain maximum distance, Kira ordered. Do not engage or approach the unknown contacts. As Kira's fleet gathered intelligence about the true enemy, the political situation on Nexus Prime continued to deteriorate. Admiral Stone called an emergency meeting with General Koros to address the growing tensions. General, our species need to work together, Stone said bluntly. These new entities will destroy both our civilizations if we don't combine our strengths. Koros nodded gravely. I agree, Admiral. But many of my people fear that humans will dominate any alliance. Your military strength is overwhelming compared to ours. We don't want to dominate anyone, Stone replied. We want partners, not subjects, but partnership requires trust from both sides. The two military leaders spent hours discussing how to bridge the gap between their peoples. They both understood that the survival of their civilizations depended on cooperation, but cultural differences made that cooperation difficult. Dr. Elena Voss made another breakthrough while studying the quantum data from Kira's reconnaissance mission. She discovered that the reality-consuming entities followed predictable patterns in their movement across space. Admiral, I've figured out how these entities choose their targets, Elena reported. They're attracted to areas with high concentrations of organized matter and energy, planets, stars, and especially large artificial structures. Admiral Stone understood the implications immediately. They're drawn to civilizations. Exactly. The more advanced a civilization becomes, the more attractive it becomes to these entities. That's why the Drakkar have been running for so long. Their biomechanical technology makes them a prime target. The pieces of the puzzle were finally coming together. The Drakkar swarm wasn't evil. They were desperate survivors trying to stay ahead of predators that consumed entire realities. Their aggressive expansion was an attempt to build enough collective strength to fight back against an enemy that treated galaxies like feeding grounds, but the revelation came too late to change the situation. The reality-consuming entities had detected the quantum disturbances from the recent battle around Nexus Prime. They were already moving toward this region of space, drawn by the signatures of two advanced civilizations working together. The clock was ticking, and humanity had unknowingly painted a target on both Earth and the Thylaurian Republic. Admiral Marcus Stone stood in the main command center watching the long-range sensors with growing dread. The entities that Dr. Elena Voss had called Void Walkers were approaching faster than anyone had predicted. Behind them came the massive Drakkar main fleet, not as attackers but as desperate refugees fleeing from something far worse. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the Drakkar fleet," reported Communications Officer Lisa Park. Stone hesitated for a moment. After months of fighting the biomechanical ships, it felt strange to talk to them as potential allies. But the sensor readings were clear. The Void Walkers posed a threat that made their previous conflicts seem meaningless. "Put them through," Stone ordered. The main screen flickered, showing a chamber filled with biomechanical interfaces. A voice emerged from the organic systems, translated into English by their computers. "Human Admiral, I am Prime Node Vex of the Collective Swarm. We request immediate conference." The Devourers approach. "All organic life must unite or face extinction." General Thane Koros joined the communication from his flagship. Despite everything the Drakkar had done to his people, he understood the gravity of the situation. "Prime Node Vex, this is General Koros of the Thylaurian Republic. You destroyed 12 of our worlds. Why should we trust you now?" "Because survival requires truth," the Drakkar entity replied. "We consumed your worlds to gather strength for the coming battle. The Devourers destroyed our home galaxy. We have fled across the void for 3 million years, gathering allies and resources to make a final stand." Admiral Stone studied the tactical displays showing the approaching Void Walkers. The entities existed partially outside normal space, phasing in and out of reality at will. Traditional weapons would be useless against them. "What do you propose?" Stone asked. "Unity of consciousness," Prime Node Vex responded. "Human individuality, Thylaurian honor codes, and collective biointegration must merge temporarily. Only combined awareness can predict Devourer movements." Dr. Elena Voss worked frantically in her laboratory, trying to understand how 3 completely different forms of consciousness could possibly work together. The solution she developed was both brilliant and terrifying. "Admiral, I've created a quantum consciousness interface," Elena reported. "It will allow limited mental connection between our species without losing individual identity. But the process is dangerous and untested." Captain Kira Blackwood volunteered to test the interface first. As one of the few humans who had successfully communicated with both Thylaurians and Drakkar entities, she was the logical choice for the experiment. The quantum consciousness chamber contained technology from all 3 species: human quantum computers, Thylaurian energy crystals, and Drakkar biomechanical nodes created a system that had never existed before. As Kira entered the interface, her consciousness expanded beyond her individual mind. She could sense the rigid honor patterns of Thylaurian thought and the collective awareness of the Drakkar bio-networks. For the first time, she truly understood how differently each species perceived reality. "It's working," Kira reported, her voice sounding strangely distant. "I can feel their thoughts, but I'm still myself. We need to scale this up immediately." Meanwhile, Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison led the combined fighter squadrons in desperate holding actions against the first Void Walker scouts. The reality-consuming entities were unlike any enemy they had ever faced. "All fighters maintain distance," Morrison ordered as his pilots tried to engage the ghostly forms. Don't let them phase into solid form near your ships. The Voidwalkers moved through space like living nightmares, shifting between dimensions to avoid attacks. When they solidified, they could tear through the strongest armor. When they phased out, weapons passed through them harmlessly. Morrison. "This is useless," called Pilot First Class Maria Santos over the radio. "Our weapons can't hurt them when they're ghosts, and we can't get close when they're solid." But Morrison had an idea. The quantum disruption weapons that had been so effective against the Drakkar bioships worked by interfering with the connection between different types of matter and energy. Maybe they could disrupt the Voidwalker's ability to phase between dimensions. "All fighters switch to quantum disruption mode," Morrison ordered. "Target them when they're between phases." The human fighters fired their modified weapons at the exact moment when the Voidwalkers were transitioning between solid and ghost forms. The quantum interference locked the entities in normal space, making them vulnerable to conventional attacks. Several Voidwalkers were destroyed before the others adapted to the new threat. But the brief victory showed that the entities could be fought and defeated. Major Lisa Chun led the ground forces preparing defensive positions on Nexus Prime's moons. The plan was to create multiple layers of quantum disruption fields that would prevent the Voidwalkers from phasing through solid matter. "Sergeant Wilson, how are the field generators coming along?" Chun asked her engineering teams. "Almost ready, Major," replied Sergeant Tom Wilson. "The Thylorian crystals are amplifying our quantum fields beyond anything we thought possible." The combined technology was producing results that none of the three species could have achieved alone. Human innovation, Thylorian energy manipulation, and Drakkar biomechanical integration created weapons and defenses that operated on entirely new principles. Dr. Elena Voss made the final breakthrough while studying the quantum consciousness interface data. She discovered that the three species' different ways of thinking could be combined into a new form of awareness that the Voidwalkers couldn't predict or counter. "Admiral, I know how to stop them," Elena announced over the communication system. "The Voidwalkers consume organized reality, but they can only affect matter and energy that follows predictable patterns. If we can create enough quantum uncertainty, we can trap them between dimensions permanently." The plan required unprecedented cooperation between all three species. Human quantum computers would calculate the probability patterns, Thylorian energy. Crystals would generate the quantum fields, and Drakkar biomechanical systems would maintain the consciousness network needed to coordinate everything. Admiral Stone, General Koros, and Prime Node Vex worked together to coordinate the final battle. Their species had been enemies just weeks before, but now they fought as partners against a threat that would consume their entire galaxy. "All ships, prepare for quantum field generation," Stone ordered the combined fleet. "This is our only chance." "Captain?" Kira Blackwood made the ultimate sacrifice to ensure the plan's success. She volunteered to pilot the quantum consciousness interface ship directly into the center of the Voidwalker formation, knowing that the feedback from so many reality-consuming entities would likely destroy her mind. "Kira, you don't have to." "Do this," Admiral Stone said over the private communication channel. "Yes, I do," Kira replied calmly. "Someone has to guide the quantum field from the inside. And I'm the only one who has successfully interfaced with all three species' consciousness patterns." As Kira's ship approached the massive Voidwalker fleet, the combined forces of three civilizations focused their efforts on creating the largest quantum disruption field ever attempted. The field would trap the entities between dimensions, preventing them from consuming any more reality. The battle was unlike anything that had ever occurred in the galaxy. Instead of explosions and energy beams, reality itself became the battlefield. Space twisted and folded as quantum fields clashed with interdimensional entities. Kira's consciousness, amplified by the tri-species interface, guided the quantum disruption with precision that no computer could match. She could feel the Voidwalkers' confusion as their ability to phase between dimensions was systematically cut off, one by one. The reality-consuming entities were trapped in normal space. where the combined fleet could destroy them with conventional weapons. The greatest threat the galaxy had ever known was being defeated by the unprecedented cooperation of three very different forms of life, but the victory came at a terrible cost. The quantum feedback from trapping so many interdimensional entities created a permanent barrier that separated this region of space from the rest of the universe. The three species were safe, but they were also isolated. 6 months later, Admiral Stone stood on the observation deck of New Unity Station. Built in orbit around Nexus Prime, through the transparent walls, he could see ships from all three species working together to patrol their shared space. The Thylorians had contributed their advanced energy technology and sense of honor to the Alliance. The reformed Drakkar Collective provided early warning systems and biomechanical engineering, and humanity offered their adaptability and innovative military tactics. Dr. Elena Voss approached with a report from the long-range sensors. Admiral, we're receiving another signal from beyond the barrier, another species, another distress call. Admiral Stone smiled as he looked out at the combined fleet of three civilizations. The barriers that protected them from the Voidwalkers also prevented them from leaving their region of space, but they could still hear the calls for help from other parts of the galaxy. Prepare a response team, Stone ordered. We may not be able to travel to them, but we can send our knowledge and our support. No one should face the darkness alone. The greatest victory in galactic history had been won not through superior firepower, but through the willingness of different species to trust each other and work together. The alliance between humans, Thylorians, and the reformed Drakkar had created something new in the universe, a civilization built on cooperation rather than conquest, and somewhere beyond the quantum barriers, other species would hear the message that Earth's fleet had proven even the greatest darkness could be defeated when different forms of life stood together.